Speaking of insect and mammal life, we had both of them represented with Chris Jericho and Don Fallis were out there. Which one is the mammal and which one is the insect? So remember, this tag team match was set up where Don said, team up with a member of my family just to see if this thing fits. And Jericho said, okay, so it's Jericho and Takeshita. And then Don surprised Jericho with the opponents were Garcia and Guevara. And that's not a Hispanic remake of Cagney and Lacey. That's Sammy Guevara and Danny Garcia, the Rock's ex-wife. And they
same name, different person, obviously.
Is that two different people?
She's much bigger.
Okay. So they beat up Jericho for a while. A lot of chops in this match. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of Garcia's little dance there. But take a shit. Every time he gets in the ring, he looks the best of anybody. He's got the size. He's in shape. He's got an intriguing... He's a good-looking young man, but he's got that look like if you put him in a fucking suit, he's a goddamn high-level Japanese Yakuza guy. He's not one of the fucking finger cutters. He's got personality, and he moves across the ring like crazy. And there were two segments of this match. The first segment, it wasn't nothing to write home about. The second segment, they got a slow heat on Garcia. At one point, Jericho went for the line salt. Garcia was supposed to raise his knees, but he was where Jericho had left him. He was too far in the middle of the ring, so Jericho did the line salt and landed with his knees on Garcia. But since Garcia was supposed to raise his knees, Jericho sold it like he'd landed on. And then they made simultaneous cold tags. And Garcia made a comeback with dives. Dive, dive, dive. Can you imagine if you put any of these fucking AEW wrestlers in the Navy and had them on a submarine? If somebody said, dive, 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 it looked like a goddamn chaos at Romper Room. Anyway, so Sammy did a backflip off the top rope to the floor onto Takeshita and elbowed Takeshita right in a fucking mush, right in the mouth. And he goes down, whoa, fuck. I told you, elbows, knees, 200 pounds almost of human being spinning from 12 feet in the air. You want to catch the motherfucker? So then Garcia got a sharpshooter while the referee's attention was elsewhere, and Don got the bat and hit Garcia in the head with it and broke the hold, and Jericho saw it and was shocked and concerned and then covered him anyway, 1, 2, 3. So there was nothing silly, and they didn't use furniture, but it was a standard tag team match, and there's more strife now because later on in a backstage confrontation, Daddy Mac Daddy tells Jericho there's a mandatory Jericho Appreciators meeting next week and he needs to be there. So obviously there's going to be repercussions for this perceived treachery. Brian, what do you think?
Should they announce that they're staying together as a faction but without him, so they'll just be like the non-appreciators?
Well, no, then they're just appreciators. If you take the Jericho out of the Jericho Appreciation Society, you go from jazz to just ass.
But what if...
Actually, that may be an appropriate name. They all look like a big group of ass.
All right. Well, that was the opening of the show. I agree with you about Takeshita. Takeshita's really good. He deserves better. You know, I tried to give them a little bit of credit for those early weeks after his heel turn where he came out with Don Callis and they gave him the dark, ominous drone music. And Takeshita looked like a badass and he was winning. Then they started having him get his ass kicked a little bit by the Bucks or whatever it was. And now he's doing this. He's just lost in the middle of all this crap. They should be doing something with just him.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, why could we not find out that Takeshita, as they call him, even though we know his real name.
As they call him, who? His parents?
Yeah.
Everyone who's known him his entire life?
Yeah, all those people, even though we know his real name, they call him that. Why couldn't we find out that not only is he Japanese and has just come here, but that also that his family is connected and he could wear that fucking, the leather and the fucking Japanese gangster looking shit. And at some point, and he obviously has a ton of money because his family's connected. So he's got Don as his, business manager. Because speak American, because English is a second language. But Don's doing his business, but he's got all kinds of money, and he's got women. They could have the women around him, the limousines, and then if somebody fucks with him, he could go to cut off their fucking finger.
See, I think that's the only thing. I think there's a reason why none of the Japanese wrestlers who ever intend on living again in Japan ever do anything that's Yakuza based on American TV.
Well, then couldn't he do everything except try to cut off somebody's finger?
Otherwise, I think it would be good.
And his family's just rich the old-fashioned way.
Otherwise, he's just a second fiddle in the middle of Jericho's drama feud.
He could be a rich kid whose father has bought his way into wrestling, and he's got all the limousines and the private planes and women hanging off of him and all these suits and everything.
Is this
because of his rich father?
If you substitute the word father for mother, you're fantasy booking the first year of Jim Cornette.
Well, no, if you substitute the word father for the word shad, you're just fucking said Tony don't have the women. And well, his father's got a lot of money. Tony may have the women too, but he doesn't look as good in a suit. But you see where I'm going with this. Make the fucking guy star.
But is this doing it, being in the middle of this Jericho stuff? Because the focus went from him and Don Callis to Callis and Jericho right away.
Yeah. And did we ever see Don in Take's corner just with Take winning a significant match?
I think that first week. And it was like, okay, they're trying it with this guy.
No, I mean, it was a job guy. I'm talking about a significant match that's been advertised and was an accomplishment of some kind. I think he beat a job guy.
Well, it was definitely a job match, but I don't think he's had a significant match that was one-on-one with Callis. And if they have, it was on a Friday night.
Has he had a significant match with one-on-one with anybody that he's won? Take a shit.
I don't know.
Well, there you go. So already he's in good hands. Now we'll move on to the next thing.